Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
A warmer from below. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Soups with myself, Greg Oops Peterson, now part of the Beeson Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in a few minutes by our good friend Colby Dant. He does such great work over at the Sports and Gambling Podcast Network. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of college basketball. We have to be discussing what we've all seen here in the offseason, but also what we can expect out of some of these second and, for a little bit of a lesser extent, third-year coaches as well. We'll be talking a lot about the higher mid-majors, for lack of a better term. We'll dive in on the Mountain West. We'll dive in on the Atlantic 10. We'll give the American a little bit of love as well. I know they did us a great job of taking a look at those conferences and so much more. And we're going to be taking a look at some coaches that have some intrigue and also the first-year coaches out there in the Mountain West as well. I felt like the Mountain West had a really good offseason. He, much like myself, Kobe, is out here on the West Coast. So we're going to be diving in on that and so much more. And if you do have a question, comment, segment, idea, what have you for this podcast, I really do want you to fire those in, because typically here in segment number 1 / at the back half of the show, I re-rack all of the news and notes we saw in college basketball. And we're just not getting a lot of news and notes right now. You did have a few guys that decided to transfer, but I mean, how much does Larry Okinenia going from Samford to Florida International after averaging about 9 points per game really move the needle? Harrison Carrington, who was over at Colorado, going to UC Irvine, 3 points per game. He might be able to do a little bit of something, but very much running low in terms of these college basketball news and notes. So we're having a lot of two-part chats like the one that we're having today with our good friend Colby Dant. So would love to be able to answer any Twitter /X questions they have on this podcast, and you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter /X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they are doing a great job of making sure that bettors are able to access their funds anywhere and at any time, as they have their account set up so that way you're able to have all gambling transactions approved any time of the year. If you go to EdgeBoost.bet, utilize that promo code of Greg, Greg. That'll get you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25, and you earn cashback rewards as you utilize EdgeBoost as well. And you get a lot of reward when you listen to Colby Dant, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network with the college experience. I know that one of our other good friends, Ryan McIntyre, joins him on that fine show. And to be able to follow Kobe on Twitter, that is at TheKobeD, and for the college experience, that's TCE on SPGN all together. And Mr. Kobe, it is always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure, Greg. Even though we're in the dog days of summer, which I know you're still heavily invested in MLB, but for me, after college baseball ends, and I still like the MLB and stuff, but I'm just reading everything I can about college football and college basketball, so I can't wait to get there.
Yep, I can't wait as well. And I can't wait to see what we're going to be getting in general. In terms of some of these second and third year coaches, because everyone wants to talk about the first year coaches, but I mean, with these second year guys, I think that they can yield a lot of value because while the transfer portal has been a game changer for some of these coaches, as we know, some of these guys, they get hired on at a point where they're just not able to get their full roster, what they necessarily want in year number one. And I feel like for a lot of these guys, year two, and even in some cases year three, is where they really put their stamp on the program and get the tempo that they want.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the same can be said, I think, for any of the college sports. But yeah, I mean, because with the transfer portal and everything and the fact that, you know, they give you that waiver for 30 days, the NCAA does, it's hard to know who your roster is going to be year one. You got to set your tone, your identity, and that's just the day and age of college athletics that we're in. But I can tell you this, what an exciting amount of year two coaches when you really think about some of the situations we got with the amount of money the Kentucky Wildcats have spent, the hype around BYU, and what Kevin Young has been building there with some nice NIL money. And then John Calipari, the other side of the Pope thing, John Calipari, year two at Arkansas. So, I mean, those are the ones off the top of my head that I just am fascinated by. And there's other ones too, like, I know we're suckers for the mid-major ranks. I want to see what Chris Mack can do there at Charleston. But, man, the BYU, Kentucky, and I guess throw Arkansas in there, and maybe even Louisville, are the ones that I think are the front page news of college hoops year two coaches.
Yep, I think so as well. And I am very intrigued to see what we're going to get out of Michigan as well, because I take a look at what they were able to do year number one, and I was very impressed. And I felt like the one thing for Michigan was they needed a little bit more of a, shall we say, sure-handed ball handler. The turnovers, it was very big for them. So Dusty May bringing in Elliot Kadu, I recognize he's not going to go out there and light it up from three-point range, but it just felt like that was such a good fit for this Michigan team, exactly what they needed. And you pair that up with the Axel Lendeborg, and I think that they're in for a very good year number two.
No, 100%. And Dusty May was one that I think I was a little bit skeptical of after, they had the Final Four run, which was incredible. But the next year, a lot of those players returned, and I thought, okay, let's see if they can handle being the hunted. And they kind of dropped the ball to a certain extent. But so I was a bit skeptical of saying, but man, I was super impressed year one at Michigan, and landing Lindeberg, the stud from UAB, has me really buying into Michigan as well for this season. But also just Dusty May seems to be that cutting edge coach that all the hype, was about, was this guy is elite. I know there was rumors about him going to Indiana because that's where his roots are from, but for Michigan to be able to hold him down, and now second year after a very impressive first year, they finally got their guy. I know the Juwan Howard thing was kind of a mess. I don't know. I mean, it depends, I think, what Michigan fan you ask, but I do think that's another one, though, for second year coaches that I expect Michigan to be at the top, or, in the top couple teams there within the Big Ten this season. So add that team to the list. Another one that I think is kind of fascinating to watch is Andy Enfield there at SMU. Just the way that they've been able to spend money. It's not like they're throwing it around football money, but still, the fact he left sitting USC, joining the Big Ten for SMU, I thought was a major headline. Year one, kind of all over the place. We'll see how they are year two, but I think it's still a fascinating thing. And of course, Mark Byington at Vanderbilt is one that I'm very captivated by.
Yep, I am very much as well, and I want to dive in on Vanderbilt a little bit more because I do feel like they're out there in the SEC, a little bit of a sleeping giant. For Vanderbilt, they gave up the three a little bit too much last season, but I do think that it's very interesting to see what they do there because Duke Miles, who it felt like he was with about 27 programs this offseason, he decides that he's going to be going to Vanderbilt. They retain some of their own with Gabe McLaughlin coming in as well. They do a nice job mixing and matching in the transfer portal. As we know, Byington from his days over at James Madison knows how to be able to utilize a good backcourt, and I think that they've got a very supreme one and could surprise a lot of people out there in the SEC.
Yeah, the guy can coach, man. Like whoever the James Madison athletic director was, between him and Signetti, they really knew what they were doing because to come in right away, and I know they weren't setting the SEC on fire, but the SEC was having a historic year in college hoops, and to be able to play at the level they did with so many good wins, this is what Vandy's wanted, whether it was Bryce Drew, whether it was Stackhouse, this is what they've been wanting for a long time. So glad to see they can get the Nashville faithful back rocking. I'm kind of all over the place on this one. Jake Diebler, when he came into Ohio State, A lot of people said this was the cheap hire because they're spending $35 million on football roster, and they won the national championship this past year. But remember, it's Ohio State. This is a team that's been to national championship games in our lifetime, Greg. Diebler, I don't know how impressive year one was. I kind of think it was a dud, but you look at the roster he's got back, might be decent. I don't know. Like, where are you at with Diebler? Is Ohio State just an afterthought when it comes to basketball now?
I think that they're just a lukewarm team is what I'm going to put it. Like, I'm not completely out on Jake Diebler. I'm not completely out on Ohio State, but I was disappointed by what they did last year. And I sort of see them in a crowded Big Ten, sort of being one of those logjam teams that's going to be fighting for like 8th, 9th in the Big Ten. I'm not sure if you have them at a little bit of higher/lower regard, but I think that they're just a middling Big Ten team.
Yeah, no, I kind of think the middle of the road, but that could be good enough for an NCAA tournament. And I guess what I was making the point of is, like, if they whiff on an NCAA tournament, I know they're a football first school, but it's Ohio State. I think he will be fired if they miss the NCAA tournament his first 2 years. I know that seems like a short leash, but I think it kind of makes him must-watch TV to me, because I do think he's coaching for his job. Ohio State has a ton of resources, so I don't believe they're tripping over a nickel here. I think they thought he could coach. He did a decent job as the interim for Holtman when they pulled the plug on him. But I think after year one, they're probably saying, okay, well, we want a bigger return. I would be fascinated to see, what the Ohio State, because I feel like you ask Ohio State fans. I was down here at the beach. I ran into a Ohio State fan the other day. We were talking football, and I brought up basketball, and he made it seem like, whatever. That's not good. I think the university wants to be good at basketball. Like I said, they played for national championship. Great basketball players have come through there. So I think it's a make-or-break year for him, only in year two there.
Yep, I do think that it's going to be a very big one as well. As joining me on the show, we do have Colby Dant. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and he's joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And I do think that there's just a lot of guys in general that it's going to be a rubber meets the road sort of year for them. And I do think that it's going to be very intriguing to see what we get in terms of some of these year three coaches as well. Like, I take a look at Temple with Adam Fisher. It's been a rough tenure for him, and it's been really rough for like Temple in general. And I think that that's another interesting team, along with Wichita State out there in the American. And I think that there's a lot of teams out there in like the, shall we say, high mid-major ranks that they've got a lot of coaches that have something to prove this year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Wichita State one, that's a great comparison, too. I know they're both in the AAC, but both programs were so good for so long. It's fascinating. The Temple one, I kind of understand more because a lot of that was a legacy hire, but I know Fran Dunphy came in there too. But the Wichita State one is kind of fascinating to me, just the fact that they're not a bigger power. Like that's one where conference realignment actually hurt the program. There's somewhere it pays off. You see certain schools jump up and you say, well, this has really helped them. Like Houston in the Big 12, I would say, really helps them. But jumping to the AAC and having, I know they had the Greg Marshall thing. I don't know where anyone is on that, but I don't know. Mills, to me, it's been all over the place. I keep a close eye on the AAC because I'm an East Carolina fan. I was disappointed greatly by Wichita State last year. I do think it's a make or break year for him too. And it kind of, this is the drama of the sport. It makes me want to watch because you're like, wait, how will he do? Is he going to be able to survive this? Because, I mean, they have money, too. Like, the Koch brothers are from Wichita State. They have money. I'm kind of fascinated by seeing what happens there, but that's part of the drama that we enjoy about college hoops. And how about, I know that Mills is in year three, but how about Gottlieb year two at Green Bay? Because he's got to be on a short leash, right? They're not going to give him 3 years if he has as bad of a season as he did a year ago, right?
I'm surprised they gave him 1 year. So, yeah, absolutely. I think that he's very much on the hot seat. And we recall what they did with Link Darner. He got fired after it felt like UW Green Bay was in solid shape, and that really set the program back for me as well. So I think that there's going to be a lot of intrigue out there. And as we know, with regards to the man that was over there before in Sundance Wicks, he goes on over to Wyoming. And I think that this is a great jumping off point from part one to part two. Let's take a look at some of the coaches that have come in the Mountain West. We'll talk about that conference. We'll dive in a little bit on the Atlantic 10 as well. Kobe, he does a great job taking a look at, shall we say, these higher mid-majors, and we'll talk a lot about that on the flip side right here on Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Family Podcast.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn. and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Great to be rejoined by Colby Dant. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, more specifically the college experience over there. And we left off talking about some of these coaches that are going to be on the hot seat, but how about if I flip it a little bit and let's take a look at the Mountain West, because I do think that for the Mountain West, they did a really good job in this hiring cycle as well. Now, do I think that they're going to be getting a ton of teams in the NCAA tournament? Probably not. And they certainly, unlike the teams that we were talking about in the previous segment, don't have a lot of second and third year guys. Obviously, Utah State is pretty shored up with regards to their second year man and what we were all able to see out of Jarrett Calhoun. But I take a look at the Mountain West being able to hire on for UNLV. I thought it was a really good hire, by the way. The fact that they bring in Josh Pastner is touring it up in the portal. You've been able to have Eric Olin go on over to New Mexico. I thought that was a home run. Colorado State, they hire on Ali Faroukmanesh. I really feel like the Mountain West got it right with regards to these coaching hires, and even though they might not be having a ton of bids to the NCAA tournament this year, because I do think that overall the just overall conference might be a little bit down, I thought that they did a great job on this front.
I think I agree with you for everyone except Pastner. Pastner is got to prove.
He did a good job with the portal, though.
Oh, yeah, no, he did. But I thought UNLV could have gotten better basketball coaches. But he did do a good job to the portal. Maybe he's a year or two away, or however long it's been that he's been with ESPN. Has, made him rediscover, his love for hoops and maybe, sometimes that's a good thing for a coach. I've interviewed plenty of coaches, football, basketball, baseball, whatever. They say sometimes a year or two stepping away, you can get a bird's eye view of the sport. You can reposition your thoughts and attack maybe a weakness that you might have not seen because you were in the game before. So maybe that works out for Pastner. I love the Mountain West when it comes to hoops. I think it's I know there's the stigma against them in the NCAA tournament. I don't care. I still think that their home element, they have great crowds. It's great basketball. If you watch it, I think you'll realize that. Now, for whatever reason, they haven't done well in the NCAA tournament. Some of that might be the fact that you don't have that home field advantage to go on. You play at a game at San Diego State or at New Mexico or Colorado State or Reno. Those places are packed, or Boise, and the fans are great. So maybe that's something to it. Maybe misseeding. I don't know what it is, but I love mid-major hoops, and the Mountain West is at the forefront of that.
Yep, with the Mountain West, I do think that it's going to be a very good year for them, and I think that it's just a very interesting sort of year for those, shall we say, higher mid-majors, because we talked about the American, we just talked about the Mountain West. Again, I don't think that the Mountain West gets a ton of bids into the NCAA tournament, but I think that they're rock solid there. And then I think that it's so big for the Atlantic 10 to just have the top teams be the top teams, because they've really been hurt in terms of NCAA tournament bids the last few seasons by the teams that come out house of fire in the non-conference portion of the season, losing like 5-6 games within the conference. I think that's very important for them to actually have a little bit less parity and have the top teams be able to rise up to the top.
100%. The Atlantic 10 was one of my favorite conferences growing up as a kid. Now, it lost some of its workhorses over the years, but it's still a conference that it's like the Mountain West of the East to me. Like just some of the schools. I love St. Bonaventure basketball, VCU basketball. Dayton has always been a very good mid-major, but you're right. And for whatever reason, they haven't been able to figure that out. You would think a lot of those programs don't even have football. So, sometimes you would think like, okay, the college sports has changed so much over 5 years. It seems like some programs, depending on the sport, haven't got caught up, whether it's NIL, whether it's transfer portal. It seems like a thing that's hard to maintain. I don't know. You would think in the A10, where there's so many programs that don't even have football, or some of them, I'm not even sure they have baseball. So you would think they'd be able to hone in on their basketball rosters a little bit more. But for whatever reason, they haven't been able to. But I'm really excited to see what they are this year. A team that really caught my eye this year was Grand Canyon. I remember reading the news. Grant Foster's gone. He's off to Gonzaga. But they kind of replenished pretty well, I thought, considering they lost who they lost. It'll be interesting to see that. And if you haven't been to a game out there, you guys got to go to a game at Grand Canyon. That's a great. And they're going to be in the Mountain West. Not this year, next year, I believe.
Yes.
So they kind of fit the model there. But that's one that I was just reading on the other day that I was like, oh, Grand Canyon. Last year, they were a little bit of a letdown to me. But I think they're reloaded and ready for a good run this year. But yeah, the A10, it's tricky. I can't put my finger on why they've had the issues they've had lately. I mean, Rhode Island's been down, but still they've had good teams. But they seem to fall apart and lose within the conference, and I don't know why. And Schmidt's teams at St. Bonaventure are always a wild card to me. They're a very hard team to gamble on because they're capable of beating anybody. But they seem to be consistently, of late, haven't really put it together consistently night in, night out.
Yep, they certainly have not been. Rhode Island, who you mentioned, they got off to such a good start to the season, and then they had such a bad end to the season as well. And to your point about going to a game over at Grand Canyon, I can't say that I ever have been, but if you've watched it on TV, think of going to Tiesto or going to Steve Aoki over at Hakkasan or something like that. That's pretty much the environment that you get. It's a rave out there. So, it is absolutely amazing. But what is also rave is getting you on this podcast, my friend. Colby, you do such excellent work. Take a look at this great game of college basketball. Let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you. Now people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
For sure, brother. Thank you, man. And I host the college football experience, the college basketball experience, and the college baseball experience. All those come together on YouTube, youtube.com/The College Experience, and feel free to hit me up on Twitter at @TheColbyD. Thanks for having me, Greg. Always a pleasure, and we can't wait for the season to get going.
Absolutely. We need that start to the season. We all want it, but a man that is doing a great job of holding it down in the meantime, that would be Colby. He does such an excellent job taking a look at college sports in general, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks, Colby, for joining me right here on Coast to Coast Soup, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And if you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Coast to Coast Soup, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. Naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast, regular season and off season. So I'm going to get you guys set for what is going to be an amazing college basketball season this year. And I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.